Right, everybody, welcome to the first Claire's Clinical Corner. So each week we're going to be taking a real life behaviour clip from somewhere on the internet, and I want to break it down with you. Now, the aim is not to criticise the owner, okay, because we very rarely know the full story. Instead, I just want to show you like exactly what's going through my mind when I watch videos like this or see these behaviours. So that over time you can start analysing situations like a behaviourist, really, rather than simply reacting to what you see. So today's clip links perfectly with this week's lessons on safe spaces and exit strategies. Now, the video, which I'll put up here for you, um, one of the first things I notice isn't really the reaction, it's the speed. Like the off-lead dog appears extremely quickly and approaches in a very direct, straight line. Now, that's important because direct approaches usually remove almost all opportunities for dogs to communicate naturally. Like there just isn't time for curved approaches, sniffing, distance increasing, or any of the subtle body language that dogs normally use to gather information about one another. Instead, this just becomes an immediately pressured situation. Now, what we notice with the handler in this is obviously their response. Personally, I think they do an excellent job. Like they don't freeze, they don't panic, they react immediately. They body block this approaching dog and they lift their own dog up to prevent physical contact. Now, I know lifting dogs is something that people often debate online, but I really think context matters. When you have a dog who's already committed to charging in and you have no opportunity to create distance, like your priorities change quickly. At this point, we're not training. We are managing a potentially dangerous situation. So in my opinion, preventing injury is the priority. Would I recommend it for every dog? Probably not. The only difference that I would have done here, if this was happening to me with a large breed of dog, I wouldn't focus on my dog. I would focus on the attacking dog. Now, what I generally do is I would intercept the aggressor, if you like. I almost always carry a spare lead on me. And I usually, in times where I've had dog attacks happen to me in the past, I've often dropped my dog's lead and I've gone straight for the attacking dog, taken their collar and twisted. Because that, if they're coming in with that much intent, there's no point trying to like throw treats at it or move away. It's coming. With Lily, my little miniature Jack Russell, she was like 5 kilos. She could literally fit in my hand. I'm picking her up. And when I picked her up, I would like elevate, and then that would leave me one free hand to grab the attacking dog, again, twisting that collar and pushing down. You always run the risk of being bitten in situations like this. But from my perspective, I would much rather get bit than my dog, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's probably the only thing I would have changed. I think lifting dogs up, especially large dogs, just leaves too much room for the attacking dog to be able to grab them. Now, that sounds counterintuitive. Like if they're on the floor, surely they've got more chance of being attacked. Probably. But if they're attacked on the floor, you can do what I just said. Leave your dog alone and go straight for that attacking dog and start choking them out. The problem with lifting them up is that we are exposing weak parts of the body. We're exposing the belly, the back hind of the legs, These are all areas that aggressive dogs will target to eliminate another dog. Now, let's have a look at the off-lead dog. Like, I'm not immediately asking, is this dog aggressive? I'm asking, what emotional state is this dog in? As I said, its movement is fast, purposeful. That dog is highly focused. Even after the owner creates a barrier, this dog continues trying to reach the other dogs. This tells me this is not calm. It is not a social approach. And something has driven this dog into a very heightened emotional state. So without knowing the history, we can't accurately label whether it's fear, frustration, predatory behavior or something else. But what we can confidently say is that this dog is no longer making calm, thoughtful decisions. Now, if we move on to the on-lead dog, you can imagine walking along, everything feels fine, and then suddenly another dog appears at speed. I'm sure we've all been through it. Your options disappear instantly. People often judge the reaction that they can see. Whereas what I think about is the emotion underneath: fear, surprise, loss of control. Being on lead also removes one of the dog's biggest coping strategies, which is creating distance. And when dogs can't move away, many can become far more vulnerable. So I think the biggest lesson that I want you to take from this clinic today is that exit strategies don't begin when an off-lead dog is already running towards you. They begin before anything happens. I think one of the biggest skills that we can develop as reactive dog owners isn't necessarily constantly scanning our environment, because a lot of us are already doing that. But you need to know where your exits are. Can I cross the road? Can I move behind a hedge? Can I step behind a parked car? Can I send my dog over this wall whilst I intercept? Can I turn around now before we're trapped? You know, the earlier you make those decisions, the easier life can become for both of you. And I did say sending my dog over a wall there when I was already talking about knowing your exits before they happen. But if there aren't any exits, sometimes there isn't one. It's not a training failure and it isn't your fault. Sometimes management's all you have. And in those settings, you need to focus on just getting everybody home safely. Like I said, I would often pick Lily up, but for my big dogs, I wanted to know where the walls were. I taught every single one of them an over when they could obviously be physically capable of doing that. And I have had situations where dogs have been charging down at me and I've seen this wall or I've seen this style or I've had this exit strategy and I've sent my dog over and they've gone over and it's kind of de-escalated things. I will never forget as well, God rest her soul, I used to keep pigs. And I had an old spot, and I think there was 12 of these crossbreed old spot / wild pigs, basically. And I used to go up every morning in the pickup. I used to drop the back of the pickup to go and feed the pigs. And as I was doing that, Sky would always stay in the back of the pickup. Like she'd never come out of it. Except one day she did. She came out of it, and as I just finished feeding the pigs or putting the whatever it was down, I think it was pellets, I turned around and she was out sniffing the floor. Now, she was doing nothing wrong, but she was in the pig pen. She was basically in, it wasn't the pig pen, it was like an area where the pigs were over the fields. And one of the young piglets, one of the young boars, spotted her and basically started a charge. I was like, what can I do? The easiest solution would have been to send her back up into the pickup, but by this point, she was away from the pickup and the pigs were kind of coming at her at an angle the way they were kind of blocking it. So I gave my away cue. I was like, these pigs are going to rip her to shreds if they get hold of her. And I was like, Sky, away, away. And it was basically a send away. And she heard this cue. She looked at what was coming for her, 12 very feisty, boisterous, wild pigs. And she was like, oh, okay. She turned around and she ran away right to the edge of the field, and the piglets followed her. Obviously, they weren't as fast. And then when she got to the end of the field, she was like, well, what now? And I was like, around. So she came all the way back around the field. These piglets were right down the far end by this point, and she was like halfway back to me. I was thinking, shit, we've got this covered. Back to me she came, get up. And up in the pickup she came, shut the door, and then a couple of minutes later, these piglets all came back towards me like, Jesus. They were in hunting mode. So I had to be careful there as well. But everything was fine. But this stresses the importance of, I had an emergency situation. I had trained my dogs these skills before I'd needed them. Away means go as far away from me as you physically can. And then obviously the around cue was directing her at distance. But these can be some of the nice skills that you could teach in situations like this. So I think one final thing to say is that in one incident like this doesn't automatically mean that it's going to set you back or make your dog more reactive, but experiences like this can absolutely influence how dogs feel about future encounters. What I would want to know following that is did the dog recover well? Did they suddenly become more worried around other dogs or more vigilant? Because the recovery tells us more than the incident itself. So in keeping with this week's work, The homework really is like, don't wait until you need an exit strategy. Just spend the walk asking yourself, if something were to happen to me right now, where would I go? Like, start spotting the gateways, start looking for the parked cars, the field entrances, the walls, the hedges, anything that gives you an option, because I always think that the best exit strategies are almost always the ones that you've already planned before you ever need them.